The westbound train screeched against the iron, steam curling around the platform like ghosts trying to hold on. Marigold Finch stepped down, clutching a worn trunk tied with a faded blue ribbon. She wasn't the kind of woman the town was used to seeing. She was soft, round, and solid, the kind of woman who had learned to build comfort in a hard world. Her green dress was neatly mended, her boots sturdy but old. When her feet hit the wooden boards, whispers followed. "Mail-order bride," someone muttered. "Poor fool rancher must be desperate." She heard them. She always did. Marigold had spent most of her life being the punchline in someone else's mouth. Still, she kept her chin steady, her eyes on the man waiting by the hitching post. Jasper Hale stood like he'd grown out of the land itself, sun-browned, jaw shadowed, eyes the color of the dry creek behind his ranch. There was quiet in him, not the cold kind, but the kind that made you want to fill it. He tipped his hat. "Mrs. Finch?" She nodded. "Marigold Finch, Marie, if it suits." He smiled slightly. "Jasper Hale. Figured the storm might have kept you back." "Storms pass," she said softly. "Hunger doesn't." That earned a few chuckles from the loafers on the platform. One man, tall and smug, leaned on the freight scale and said loud enough for all to hear, "No one marries a fat girl, sir. But I reckon she can cook." The laughter cut through her, sharp and familiar. Marigold turned to the man, her voice calm and clear. "You're right," she said. "No one marries a fat girl, sir, but I can cook." Jasper didn't laugh. Instead, he looked at her with something like respect. "Then you and Dry Creek both may live to see winter," he said. The laughter died. Marigold blinked once, surprised by the warmth in his voice. Jasper picked up her trunk and nodded toward the waiting cart. "Come on, Mari, home's a long ride." The countryside rolled wide and golden around them. Marigold watched Jasper's hands on the reins, steady, scarred, kind. The wind tugged her ribbon loose, and he caught it before it flew off. He didn't hand it back right away. He looked at it, then at her, then tied it to the cart rail like a flag. When they reached the Hale Ranch, 3 children waited on the porch. Jasper's late brothers, a boy with wild eyes, a girl with a brave chin, and a toddler clutching a wooden spoon. Marigold smiled at them the way her mother once had smiled at stray kittens. "I can fix a kettle, a crust, and a broken heart if you give me a clean table," she said. The girl smiled first. The boy tested her with a stare, then nodded. The toddler lifted both arms, trusting her. Marigold crouched and gathered him close. Inside, the kitchen waited like a room holding its breath. She rolled up her sleeves and started cooking. Beans with salt pork, onions, pepper, courage in a pot. The smell filled the house, and by supper, laughter had softened the corners of every room. When they'd eaten, Jasper washed the dishes while Marigold dried them. She said quietly, "I didn't come west for charity. I came for partnership. I'll keep your home, feed your young, and stand beside you, but not beneath you." Jasper's voice was low. "Then we understand each other. If you'll take my name, I'll take your terms. I won't call you less than what you are, Marie. I'll call you home." Her eyes shone in the lamplight. "Home," she repeated, and the house seemed to exhale, as if agreeing. Morning came with the smell of coffee, wood smoke, and something new. Belonging. Marigold woke before the sun, her hands remembering the rhythm of work before her mind. Caught up. Outside, frost clung to the porch rail, glittering like dusted sugar. She tied her hair with the blue ribbon Jasper had hung on the cart rail the day before, then stoked the fire. Jasper was already in the yard, splitting wood with quiet strength. The thud of the axe matched her heartbeat. Through the window, she watched how careful he was. Not just with the swing, but with the pause between each one, like a man who'd learned patience the hard way. "You're up early," he said, when she stepped outside with a mug of coffee. "Bread won't rise in a cold kitchen," she answered. He smiled slightly. "Neither will hope." The children tumbled out next, sleepy-eyed and half-dressed. Marigold handed them biscuits and a stern look. They were warming to her, slow, cautious, but real. The smallest one, Caleb, refused to eat until she broke her own biscuit in half and gave him the bigger piece. By midday, Jasper hitched the mule cart. "Need to head into town," he said. "Bank's been pressing since my brother passed. Wants to talk about renewing notes." Marigold wiped her hands on her apron. "Bankers don't talk. They measure." He gave her a look, the kind men give when they've been handling trouble alone for too long. "You're not wrong. Still, I'll listen." She untied her apron, reached for a loaf she'd baked that morning, and wrapped it in cloth. "Then we'll both listen," she said. In town, the air felt different, thinner, colder, filled with eyes. Jasper's name carried weight, but weight can pull a man down. The banker, Mr. Token, greeted them with a smile that had never reached. His eyes. "Mr. Hale," he said, motioning to the papers on his desk. "Just renewals, signatures to keep things smooth." Marigold noticed how his hand hovered just over the ink pot, like a spider over a web. She set the loaf of bread on his desk. "Neat as a sermon." "Bread?" Token asked, eyebrows raised. "It helps a man think honest," Marigold said. Jasper studied the papers. The numbers didn't lie, but the spacing did. Marigold leaned closer, her finger tracing a line near the bottom. "This one gives him your grazing rights," she said. Token's smile thinned. "Ma'am, I hardly care what you think," she interrupted. "I can read, sir, and I've read enough to know theft when I see it dressed up in ink." Jasper set down the pen. "That'll be all for today, Token." The banker stiffened. "These debts won't wait forever, Hale." Jasper met his gaze, evenly. "Neither will I." As they stepped out, the toothpick man from the station leaned against a post, grinning. "Well, if it ain't the cook and her savior. Careful, Jasper. That one'll talk you out of your boots." Marigold didn't. "Slow. And you'll still be standing there, waiting for someone else to hand you theirs," she said. The men outside the bank went quiet again, the way they always did when a woman spoke sense with her head high. Jasper looked at her, pride hidden. Under a quiet smile, the road home was long and windy. Halfway through, clouds rolled in from the mountains, dark, swollen, ready. Jasper flicked the reins, glancing skyward. "Storm's coming." "Let it," Marigold said, pulling her shawl tighter. "We've got walls, we've got beans, and we've got courage." When they reached the ranch, the wind had started to howl. She ushered the children inside, set the fire roaring, and began to cook. The storm banged against the shutters, but inside, the smell of stew and baked bread wrapped the house like a promise. Jasper joined her by the stove, hair damp from the rain. "You've got a way of making this place feel right," he said. "It's not the place," she replied softly. "It's the people inside it." He looked at her then. Really looked. The lamplight caught her face, the faint flush from the stove, the tired grace in her eyes. Something shifted between them, unspoken but understood. Outside, thunder cracked. Inside, two hearts found a rhythm steadier than the storm. The storm lasted through the night, rattling the shutters and testing every nail in the Hale house. Wind howled through the cottonwoods, and rain struck the roof like thrown pebbles. Inside, Marigold kept the stove lit and the children close. Jasper sat near the door, rifle propped against his knee, listening as if the weather were whispering its intentions. "Storms talk," he said quietly. "They tell you who you are." Marigold ladled stew into bowls, steady despite the thunder. "And what do they say about you, Jasper Hale?" He took his bowl, eyes still on the window. "That I'm tired of being alone in them." She didn't answer, not out of shyness but care. Words like that carried weight. You didn't drop them until you were sure the ground beneath could hold. Come morning, the storm had moved east, leaving behind puddles, broken branches, and a ranch that smelled of wet soil and survival. Marigold stepped outside, apron fluttering, in the wind, and felt something like gratitude. The land looked battered, but it was still standing. So was she. By noon, a rider appeared from the ridge, a lawman by his badge, soaked to the bone, his horse trembling from the climb. Jasper met him at the gate. "Sheriff Lawton?" he greeted, wary. "What brings you up this far after a storm?" The sheriff tipped his hat, water dripping from its brim. "Business, Hale. Word in town is you're behind on notes. Token's been talking. Says he might foreclose by spring." Jasper's jaw tensed. "He's talking too soon." "Maybe," Lawton said, eyes sliding to Marigold on the porch. "Heard you took a wife? Mail order?" Marigold didn't flinch. "Better ordered than borrowed," she said. The sheriff smirked but tipped his hat politely. "Ma'am," Jasper stepped forward. "You got more to say. Say it plain." Lawton sighed. "Token's not just after the land, Jasper. He's after the grazing rights near the creek, the Lakota's side. Rumor is he's planning to fence it off come spring. He'll use your brother's old signature to claim it." Jasper swore under his breath. Marigold's mind turned quick as fire. "So if Token gets the land," she said, "he gets the water. And whoever controls water controls everything." Lawton nodded. "Smart woman you got there." "She's not mine," Jasper said evenly. "She's her own." "But she's right." The sheriff turned his reins. "Then you best get ready. Token's not patient, and he's not kind. He'll come with papers, and if that fails, with men." When the lawman rode off, the ranch felt smaller against the horizon. Jasper walked the fence line until sunset, jaw set like stone. Marigold followed with a lantern, keeping a few paces behind. "You knew he'd come?" she asked. "Figured. Trouble don't travel alone. Token's had his eye on this place since before my brother died. Now he's got words on paper he thinks can steal what Sweat built." Marigold stopped, holding the lantern high. "Then we fight him where he's weakest, his stomach and his pride." Jasper raised a brow. "How's that?" She smiled faintly. "A man who hides behind papers doesn't know how to face an honest table. Invite him to supper. Make him eat his lies." Jasper almost laughed, the sound half rust, half relief. "You'd cook for him?" "I'd cook for the truth," she said, "and I'd watch him choke on it." The next morning, Marigold sent the boy, Tom, into town with a note written in her careful hand. "Mr. Token, supper at the Hale Ranch tomorrow. Evening. To discuss debts and decency. Bring your appetite." Jasper read the note twice before she sealed it. "You're bold," he said. "No," Marigold replied. "I'm done being small." That evening, after the chores were done and the sky turned to bronze, Jasper found her sitting by the hearth, mending one of the children's shirts. The firelight softened her face. "You scare me sometimes, Mari," he said. "Good," she murmured, not looking up. "That means you're alive." He watched her fingers move, sure and gentle, and felt something shift in him, a kind of peace he hadn't known in years. Outside, the wind picked up again, and somewhere far off, a coyote called. The storm might have passed, but another one was already forming, one made of pride, paper, and the courage of a woman who'd been underestimated one time too many. The sun bled out behind the ridgeline, painting the sky in copper and smoke. Jasper spent the day repairing fence posts and oiling his rifle, though he said it was just habit. Marigold spent hers in the kitchen, sleeves rolled, apron tied tight, a soldier in flour and fire. The meal she prepared was no accident. It was a declaration on the table. A roast hen rubbed with sage, beans slow-cooked with onions and salt pork, cornbread cut thick, and coffee dark enough to make a man tell the truth. The smell filled every corner of the house. By dusk, wheels crunched along the dirt road. Jasper looked out the window. "He came," he said simply. "Of course he did," Marigold replied, wiping her hands. "A man like Token can't resist the sound of his own fork." The banker arrived in a polished buggy, stepping down with a smirk that didn't match the mud on his shoes. Behind him came the toothpick man, the same one who'd mocked Marigold at the depot. He carried himself like a hired shadow, one who'd sooner draw a gun than a line of thought. Jasper opened the door but didn't offer a handshake. "Evening." "Token." "Evening," the banker replied smoothly. "Mrs. Hale, I presume?" "You presume right," Marigold said, her tone flat as cast iron. "Supper's hot. Eat before your words spoil it." Token laughed, but it was brittle. They sat, the four of them, the room thick with unspoken terms. Jasper poured coffee. Marigold set plates. Every motion was deliberate, each sound in the room sharpened by meaning. Halfway through the meal, Token dabbed at his mouth with a linen napkin that wasn't his. "Delicious," he said. "Truly. You've outdone yourself, Mrs. Hale. I see why Jasper made the arrangement." Marigold smiled sweetly. "Funny thing about arrangements. They hold better when both parties understand the recipe." Jasper's eyes flicked to her, half warning, half pride. Token leaned back. "Since we're being direct, Jasper, your brother's note comes due next month. The bank expects resolution. I can offer leniency in exchange for access to the creek." Jasper's jaw worked once. "That creek doesn't belong to you." "Nor to you," Token countered. "It sits on contested land, and if the Lakota move off come spring, the rights will pass through the county. To the bank. Most likely. Unless you sign now while there's still—" Marigold interrupted, her voice calm as a church bell. "You ever work a field, Mr. Token?" He blinked. "I beg your pardon? You ever bury your hands in dirt until your nails tear or pull, calves in a snowstorm, or watch your children go to bed hungry because the rain came too late? I handle finances, not livestock." "That's the difference between us," she said softly. "You handle numbers. I handle life." The toothpick man shifted, sneering. "Careful, lady. You're speaking to the man who owns this county." Marigold's eyes didn't leave Token's. "No, he only rents it from fear, and fear's a landlord that always collects." Jasper leaned forward, his voice low. "You'll get your payment, Token. In full. But you won't take the creek. And if you try, the sheriff will see those false papers of yours." The banker froze. "False?" "You forged my brother's name," Jasper said. "And you used witnesses who were never there. My wife saw it clear as day." Token's mask cracked. "You can't prove that!" Marigold stood, placing both palms flat on the table. "We can. Honora will swear to it. The Lakota woman you tried to buy out last winter. She remembers every line." The silence that followed was sharp enough to draw blood. Token's smile vanished. "You've made a mistake, Hale." Jasper rose too. "No, Token, I just stopped making them." For a long moment, the only sound was the ticking of the clock. Then, slowly, Token stood, adjusted his coat, and nodded toward the door. "Come, Harlan," he said to the toothpick man. "We'll see who the law listens to." Marigold watched them go, her heart steady, her hands still. When the buggy wheels finally faded into the dark, Jasper turned to her. "You just declared war," he said quietly. She looked toward the window, where the first snowflakes drifted down. "Then I hope you like the taste of victory," she said, "because I plan to serve it hot." The children peeked out from the bedroom doorway, eyes wide. Marigold smiled gently. "Back to bed," she told them. "Tomorrow's a long day." We've got fences to mend and a banker to ruin." Jasper chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Lord help Token," he muttered. "He's never met a woman like you." Marigold poured the last of the coffee, her reflection trembling in the cup. "No," she said, half to herself, half to the wind. "He's met plenty. He just never listened." Outside, the night thickened, quiet, cold, and full of promise. Somewhere in town, Token's pride began to curdle, and by morning, rumor would ride faster than truth. But for now, in the warm light of the Hale kitchen, a woman once mocked for her size and silence had turned both into power. And the West, whether it knew it yet or not, had just met its match. The next morning dawned, cold and white, the ranch wrapped in snow like a held breath. Marigold stood at the window, watching the world glow pale gold under the sunrise. She could feel it, the stillness before something breaks. Jasper was already outside with the eldest boy, hammering fresh boards across the barn door. The sound echoed sharp in the frozen air. Inside, the kitchen was alive. The fire popped, coffee hissed, and the smell of fresh bread filled the air. Marigold had barely slept. She didn't need to. Fear had burned itself clean out of her. Today wasn't about hiding anymore. It was about ending things. By mid-morning, the sheriff's horse kicked up frost on the front trail. Lawton dismounted slow, his eyes cautious. He tipped his hat at Marigold as she met him on the porch. "Mrs. Hale," he said. "Heard there was tension last night." She folded her arms. "Tension's one word for it. Deceit's another." Jasper came up behind her, wiping his hands on a rag. "Token's coming," he said simply. "I'd bet every acre on it." The sheriff nodded. "You'd win. He was in town at dawn, shouting about forged signatures and ungrateful ranchers. But I also heard from Honora. She's on her way with proof and witnesses." Marigold's lips curved slightly. "Then we'll give him the welcome he deserves." By noon, the sound of wheels announced Token's arrival. 2 wagons this time, one his own, one full of hired men. The toothpick fool, Harlan, sat high. On the second seat, grinning mean through the cold. Token climbed down, coat buttoned tight, eyes sharp with spite. "You've made a grave mistake, Hale," he said, "bringing that woman's gossip into this." Jasper didn't flinch. "Truth isn't gossip, Token. It's just louder when you've been ignoring it." Token stepped closer. "Sign the day. Creak over, Jasper, and I'll forget this insult." Marigold came down the steps holding a folded piece of paper. "Before you speak another lie, you should see this." She handed it to the sheriff, who unfolded it and read aloud. "Affidavit from Honora White Elk. Sworn testimony that Mr. Token approached her family last winter, offering payment for forged witness marks on a contract bearing Ethan Hale's name. Months after his death." The hired men shifted. One spat into the snow. Another muttered, "Dead man's name? That's low, even for a banker." Token's face drained. "That woman's word means nothing here." Marigold's voice cut through the air like a whip. "It means everything when it's backed by your handwriting." She reached into her apron and pulled out another paper. One Jasper had found behind the mantel days ago, folded in an envelope his brother had sealed before dying. The original deed, clean and unaltered. "You forged a dead man's hand," she said, "but you forgot he was honest enough to make 2 copies." For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the sheriff spoke, voice low and final. "Token, you're under arrest for fraud, falsification of legal documents, and attempted theft of tribal land." Harlan stepped forward, hand near his gun. Jasper's rifle was already leveled. "Don't," Jasper said. Harlan froze. Token tried to speak, then realized no one was listening anymore. The sheriff tied his hands. "You'll stand trial in Cheyenne." As they led him away, Token twisted to look back at Marigold. You think you've won? He hissed. But the world doesn't change for women like you. Marigold didn't blink. No, she said softly. We change it ourselves. When the wagons were gone, the ranch fell quiet again. Snow drifted down, soft and slow, erasing the wheel tracks. Jasper turned to her, eyes full of something unguarded. You saved this land, he said. She smiled faintly. We did. He stepped closer, close enough that the smell of wood smoke and coffee hung between them. You said once you came west for partnership, he said. Still mean it? She looked up at him, eyes steady. Every word. Then let's start today, Jasper said. Not as a deal, not as a rescue, just as two people who got through the same storm and planned to stay standing. Marigold reached up, brushing snow from his collar. Partners, then, he nodded, a smile pulling slow across his face. Partners. Behind them, the children tumbled out onto the porch, laughing, throwing snow. The sound was clear and new, like bells in the cold. Marigold watched them and felt something deep settle in her. Not pride, not triumph, but peace. She turned to Jasper. You hungry? He grinned. Always. Good, she said, taking his hand. I made stew. It tastes like freedom. And as the snow kept falling and the land stretched wide and endless, the Hale Ranch, once a place of grief and debt, became a home again, built not on luck or charity, but courage, craft, and the heart of a woman no one thought would ever be chosen.